Okay, good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can I have a mover and seconder to do that, please? Councillor Moore, Councillor Ritchie. That the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Springwater of August 5, 2020 come to order at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Due to COVID-19, Council is taking the necessary steps to limit in-person meetings. As such, Council will be participating in the meeting electronically. The meeting is being live streamed, and residents are provided with the following options to watch or listen to the Council meetings. You can watch it at our website, www.springwater.ca. You can listen to the meeting from a telephone at the phone number 647-558-0588 and use the ID 857-1380-5525 and the pound sign. You can do that during the meeting, or for those unable to watch the live stream, they can review the meeting at their convenience by watching the video on the Township's YouTube channel. So I am here with staff physically distanced, the clerk, and our CAO. Council, are there any disclosure of pecuniary interests this evening? All right, seeing none, we go to question meeting. I'll do it then. Question period. Members of the public are invited to ask questions of Council or make comments regarding an item on the agenda. Questions not on the agenda will be at the discretion of the chair. The members of the public wishing to submit a question or comment for question period shall have done so by 4:30 today by contacting the clerk. Clerk Ainsworth, please provide Council with any questions or comments that have been received for this meeting.
Thank you. One question and comment has been received from Hale Mahone of 33 Hillview Crescent in Midhurst. This was provided to members of Council earlier today, along with the attachments that are noted in the comments. And he states that he would like to provide comments on item 6.1 of tonight's agenda, being the Midhurst Community Center options for heritage recognition. I would like to urge Council to support option 2 and proceed with a heritage designation for the Midhurst Community Hall. I had previously provided my comments to question period during the July 8th meeting of Council, but I will review them now. I believe that a heritage designation would be in line with the 4 reasons for designated laid out by the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture. The Ministry outlines that a heritage designation recognizes the importance of a property to the local community, protects the property's cultural heritage value, encourages good stewardship and conservation, and promotes knowledge and understanding about the property. Regarding the Midhurst Community Hall, a heritage designation will recognize its importance as a community hub for numerous groups to meet, events to be hosted, and meetings to be held. It will protect its cultural heritage value as a pillar of the Midhurst community for almost 100 years and will attest to the many improvements to Midhurst culture made by groups meeting there, particularly the Midhurst Community Recreation Association, which was founded there in 1967. It will encourage stewardship and conservation as Midhurst continues to grow and welcome more modern aspects by preserving a sentimental and treasured community building. Finally, it will promote knowledge of the property by allowing residents and visitors to learn about the rich history of the hall's use in the village. For these reasons, I would request that Council support a heritage designation. Further to my own comments, I have also been in touch with almost a dozen former and current residents who provided their comments and explained their sentimental connection to the Midhurst Hall. I have attached those comments as well, should anyone wish to view them. I have also attached a letter from Gary E. French, a retired lawyer residing in Elmvale. Mr. French has laid out a compelling argument in support of a heritage designation. Finally, I have attached a petition in support of a heritage designation that I provided to Council at their last meeting, which has now gathered 197 signatures. Whatever the outcome of tonight's vote, I would like to thank all members of Council who have researched, contemplated, and consulted on this issue. I would also like to thank staff for their fair and impartial support in providing information on all aspects of this issue. I am grateful to the Township for their commitment to consultation and for my ability to provide my comments here tonight.
Thank you, Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Mahone, for those comments. We will be discussing it, as you stated, in 6.1, which is coming up right after the minutes. So thank you again. 4.1, Minutes of Council. Can I have a mover and seconder to get those on the floor, please? Councillor Cabral and Councillor Ritchie. Any comments with respect to the minutes, 1 or 2? Okay, the motion is that the minutes of council listed herein be approved as presented. The special meeting of council, July 8, 2020. The minutes of the regular meeting of council, July 8, 2020. All those in favor? Carried. Correspondence and information items, there are none this evening. So we move on to action reports. 6.1, the Midhurst Community Center options for heritage recognition. We need a mover and a seconder to get this on the floor, please. Councillor Hanna and Councillor Cabral. Deputy Clerk Helmke is on the line. Deputy Clerk Helmke, maybe you could just give us an update since the last meeting, just an overview of this report and what we're presented with here, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So as I stated in my report highlights, at the July 8th meeting, Council passed a resolution requesting that staff prepare a report outlining the process for heritage designation and other options that are available in regards to recognizing the Midhurst Community Centre. So 3 options are being provided to Council this evening for the Community Centre, and they include no formal designation under the Ontario Heritage Act, formal designation under the Ontario Heritage Act, and listing the property on the Heritage Register of property of cultural heritage value or interest not designated. So the aspects of each option have been outlined in the report for Council's consideration. I won't go through them all. I'll kind of fast forward to my conclusion. There are various options available to recognize the Midhurst Community Centre's cultural and historic importance to the community. So when reviewing what the best option is, it's important to identify what the intent is, and that's really important here. If there are particular features, so heritage attributes, of the Midhurst Community Centre that Council wishes to protect for the future, then designation may be a viable option. However, if Council wishes to purely recognize the cultural heritage value of the community centre and its importance to the community, then listing the property on the Heritage Register of property of cultural heritage value of interest is a suitable option. And this would also promote good stewardship and conservation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hanna.
Yes, I would like to put my support forward for option 2, that the Midhurst Community Hall be designated as a heritage property.
And the seconder seconds that. I think the seconder on this was Councillor Cabral.
Oh, I didn't put my hand up, but I'm glad to.
We had you for seconding the motion. So comments then, please. Councillor Hanna.
Thank you. I can go on at length, but I think what Hill Mahone submitted sort of captures the feeling of the residents of the community and the importance that the Midhurst Community Hall is to the community. And I think that's one of the driving factors for the 197 people that signed the petition asking council to designate the property.
Councillor Ma.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I just need to be clarified what option 3 be on the Heritage Register property of culture, heritage value or interest. What's the difference between that and option 2?
I'll turn that to Deputy Clerk Helmke, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. For you, to Councillor Maud Chapman. So the difference is that it wouldn't be formally designated under the Ontario Heritage Act. However, if you chose option 2 for designation, then it would automatically be put on the Heritage Register of designated properties. So that's the difference between the two. So option 3 is no formal designation, but still recognition of the cultural and heritage significance of the property, which would be put on our website. So it's very similar to the report I had on last council meeting on July 8th for the Kissing Rock. Council supported putting that on the Heritage Register. And there's multiple township-owned properties currently on the Heritage Register, recognizing their history.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and my apologies to Clerk Helmke, as I didn't ask this in advance, but how many properties in Springwater Township do we have on the actual designated register right now, not the Heritage Register? Designated properties in Springwater.
Clerk Helmke?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. For you to Deputy Mayor Coughlin, we have 13 designated heritage properties on that Heritage Register, and 2 of them, I believe, are township-owned properties. And that would be the Hillsdale Jail and the Penetanguishene Trail.
Okay. And follow up, Mayor Allen?
Yes.
Thank you. And I personally won't be supporting option 2. While I think that the Midhurst Hall does hold significant value to the residents of Midhurst, the building itself, is which I believe the 13 properties within the municipality are evaluated on, with a component of cultural value being assessed during that. The Midhurst Hall would still be identified as other Heritage Register properties, whereas designating it as a formal property, that to me, it not only, in my opinion, could devalue the assessment placed on the other properties, because the heritage component to it, there are some stunning, I believe there was one in the McDonald House out in Hillsdale. These are properties that have a lot of value in the physical aspect of it, not necessarily the emotional or community aspect, which I get are very similar things. But I think that the information brought forward by the residents isn't talking about the bricks and mortar of this building. They're talking about what the building means to them. And in my opinion, option 3 is more specific to that. So I am hoping that option 3 can be considered, understanding that option 2 is being moved. But I do believe that we have a heritage committee that is very well educated, very brilliant architects and people with a lot of history or a lot of knowledge of the history in Springwater, and I'm going to stand behind the recommendation of our committee.
Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I guess my comment here is with respect to the cultural aspect in particular. I think at a past meeting there was some thought about other community halls, and I don't think here in Elmville the community hall that probably meant the most to this community no longer is in existence. So there's no point designating anything here. It's just a brick and mortar building. Hillsdale is kind of along the same loops. Maybe 70 or 80 or 100 years down the road they might want to designate it. But I find a bit of fault with this when we have a rock, a kissing rock, that has no real structure to it or architectural uniqueness, and a trail that the reason that they have been kind of looked at as heritage matters is because of the history and the cultural aspect and the meaning to the community residents there. So I'm still in favor of option number 2 in this particular case. And I do have a question for Deputy Clerk Hemsey there, with respect to whether or not there has been any petition in the past in support of designating a property as a heritage, with a heritage designation. I'd be curious to know what the answer to that would be.
Clerk Ainsworth or Deputy Clerk Helmke, do you know the answer to that?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. For you to Councillor Cabral, there may have been a petition in the past to support a designation of a property. I've only been with the municipality for the past 2.5 years, so I'm unaware if there has been one, but maybe Clerk Ainsworth knows of one in the past, but my knowledge is that there may have been one, but I can't 100% say for sure.
Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you. I'm unaware of a petition in the past as well.
Okay,
Just, Mayor Allen, I just want to apologize for mispronouncing Deputy Clerk Helmke's surname there.
okay,
I do
thank you.
apologize for that.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin, you had your hand up, and then Councillor Moore.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask for clarification through you to Councillor Cabral. I'm in agreement that much like a kissing rock or a trail or another building, the property has cultural value and therefore should be on a register. I'm not suggesting that a rock or a trail should be designated in any way. I'm saying that this would fit that same on the register.
Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So further to Councillor Cabral's point about the kissing rock or about the trail, I wonder if I could ask Deputy Clerk Helmke to provide that list of 13 properties that are designated. Councillor Cabral brought up a very good point, and before I vote, I'd really like to know what the other designated properties are. Thank you.
Do you have that at your fingertips, Deputy Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, for you to Councillor Moore. So all this information is also on the township's website under our Heritage and Culture page. But off the top of my head, of the 13 properties, we have the Martin Grove House, the Parker House, the Waddy House, the Richie McGuire Tree, the Cooper House, the McDonald House, the Crossland General Store, the Shaw House, the Davenport Homestead, the O'Neill House Hotel/Tavern, the Tudhope House, the Hillsdale Jail, and the Penetanguishene Trail.
Follow on?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So there is not a rock, but there is a tree that you mentioned, as well as the trail. They're both designated. I was leaning towards 3 as an option, but because of that, now I'm somewhat leaning towards option 2. So I think we need maybe to just.
Councillor Ma?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. This one's kind of hard because we could open, I think we should look at what the Heritage Advisory Committee is about, and if they have followed through on their report and think that option 2 is not what the Midhurst Community Center is, because you could look at a lot of other community halls. For example, Grenfell is of age, and I don't know what shape it's in, or Minising is that. So if we open a can of worms where we don't follow the heritage, which we don't have to, but they're there for a reason. So I'm in support of option 3.
Thank you. If I may just make a comment, I certainly appreciate the feedback and questions received by residents and comments by residents with respect to this. I also appreciate the hard work that the Heritage Committee did in their detailed review of this and the recommendations contained in their thorough report regarding the reasoning behind the recommendations. And I think to not take this into consideration is doing a disservice to the committee and would make them wonder, really what, if they could be overridden by the sentiment of residents, and I know we all report to residents, but they are residents on the committee as well with considerable experience, and I think we have to listen to their recommendations after a thorough study. There has not been a facility assessment audit done recently on this community hall, and that is scheduled to be completed later this year. Any future capital and maintenance work on this building would not be eligible for development charge revenue, so all costs would need to be raised via debt or taxation. There is no intention in the foreseeable future to sell this or demolish this property, as some people have presumed or inferred. So in light of this, I'm in support of listing the community center on the Heritage Register, option 3, as it sufficiently recognizes the historical significance of this property. Councillor Ritchie, did you have a comment?
Yes, I did, Mayor Allen. I look at that building in 2 components. I look at it in the cultural and the historical value that it brings to Midhurst, to the Midhurst history of that area. Very, very important. And secondly, the other component And I think I think we've been missing the boat on this, is that the bricks and mortar on that, the buttresses on the exterior of that building are much the same of a lot of the older churches that was built at the time to help strengthen and reinforce the walls of the exterior of these buildings when they were built over 100 years ago. That's unique. You don't see that anymore today. You can't compare that to Grenville. I can't compare it to the community hall in Elmvale or anywhere. Those buttresses are much like some of the older churches, like I've just mentioned, or some of the older buildings. That is unique. The history is unique. And that's why I'm going to support option 2.
Councillor Hanna.
Thank you. And as Perry Ritchie pointed out, some of the history that took place in that hall, we've all read it. There's a lot of significant events that have taken part over the 97 years that hall's been in existence. And I think that not designating it would be a mistake. I think it's just, while we have a committee making recommendation, it's a decision of council. And as council, I'm forwarding option 2 for support, and I'd like a recorded vote.
CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to provide a little bit more clarity to members of council as well. So there was the question of what properties, if you will, that are currently officially designated, and that information has been shared. But I would also share that there is the list of those properties that are on the Municipal Heritage Register, which are not designated, but they are listed. And I would turn maybe council's attention to that list as well, where there's the John Copeland House, the Midhurst United Church, the Grenville United Church, a number of cemeteries, and so on and so forth, which again have cultural value to the township, and as such are on that Municipal Heritage Register, but they are not officially designated. So again, I just want to make sure that council is aware of some of those other properties and or facilities that are on that Municipal Heritage Register, but aren't officially designated. So.
Councillor Ma.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And I understand that the Midhurst Community Hall has a lot of history and value and close to people's hearts, but there's a lot of buildings out there that do. But my question is, if we went with option 3 now, can it change to option 2 down the road?
Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you. Yes, council would have the opportunity down the road to go through the process of designating the property if they chose to do so, and if the decision would be to list on the Heritage Register tonight, there would be nothing stopping council from going down that path in the future.
Thank you.
Clerk Gaines?
Yes, Deputy Clerk Helmke.
I just want to reiterate what Clerk Ainsworth had said. The Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries, they actually state that one of the first steps a municipality should take in evaluating a heritage property is first listing it on the Heritage Register, not designating it first, and then taking the time to really see if designation is the next valuable step.
Thank you. Clerk Ainsworth.
And thank you. Just for process, on the table right now is option 2, as that is the option that the mover and seconder have selected. Should somebody wish to propose option 3, they would need to propose an amendment to this motion to remove option 2 and to select option 3. If that would pass, then the final motion would be to select option 3. If that amendment fails, then the current motion of option 2 would sit.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody want to propose an amendment? Deputy Mayor Coughlin? To option 3, presumably.
Yes, thank you. Option 3.
And is there a seconder for that? Councillor Ma? Okay. Councillor Ma, did you have a comment?
No, I didn't know if you want me to say yes.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of the amendment? 1, 2, 3. Opposed? opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you count the 4 there? Yep. Okay, that's defeated. So the motion that the report from the deputy clerk regarding the Midhurst Community Center option for heritage recognition dated August 5, 2020 be received, and that option 2, the council direct staff to begin the formal designation process as outlined under Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act to formally designate the Midhurst Community Center located at 74 Doran Road a heritage property. And I believe there was a requested recorded vote.
A recorded vote was requested by Councillor Hannah. When I state your name, please state yes or no. Councillor Cabral,
Yes.
Councillor Hannah,
Yes.
Councillor Chapman,
No.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin,
No.
and Mayor Allen.
No.
The motion is carried.
Okay, moving on to action report 7.1. We have action reports 7.2 through 7.11. I will be declaring a conflict with respect to 7.6 due to an investigation regarding myself. I will turn the chair over to Deputy Mayor Coughlin at the conclusion of dealing with the other items other than 7.6. Are there any other items that wish to be pulled? Councillor Ritchie?
Mayor Allen, I'd like to speak to 7.3 regarding the Barrie area position recruitment.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Coughlin,
7-4.
speak to or pull?
Poll, please.
Pull. DM. Okay, any other? Councillor Hannah?
We will be speaking to 7.6, correct?
Yes, as a separate item, under the
you.
chair of Deputy Mayor. Okay, so I need we get a mover and seconder for this. Mover and seconder. Okay, first of all, we will, Perry has comments with respect to 73. Councillor Ritchie, please.
Yes, I've read this over, and I'm in support of the Barrie position recruitment. But I before we give the money, Mayor Allen, I'd like to see them come and put a presentation on and tell us what they're doing and what all new physicians have come to the area. I don't want to, I'm not in favor of just cutting a check and sending it to them. I think the least they could do is come to a council meeting and explain to council what they're doing and how they're doing it. We've been very generous, and it's a worthwhile endeavor to bring physicians to the area, and it wouldn't hurt them to come and let us know what they're doing. So I just want to mention that.
Councillor Ritchie,
Not in favor of just cutting a check and giving it to them.
Councillor Ritchie, you'll recall in October 2019, they came and made a presentation to update us.
Yeah, they can come again.
Okay, Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you, through you. This funding request is based on the presentation they provided in October of 2019. They will be back this coming October to make a presentation and a request for the funding for the following fiscal year.
All right. That can go for Midland too as well, when they come. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. We're pulling 7.4, so can I have a mover and seconder for the other motions, please? Councillor Moore and Deputy Mayor Coughlin, that the recommendations contained, that the action reports items 7.2 through 7.11 be received, and that the recommendations contained therein be approved as presented.
Excuse me, Mayor
Yes.
Allen, I apologize, but are you not also pulling 7.6?
7.6 is pulled, is being pulled, yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
At the end of the
that.
motion, I say with the exception of.
Yes, okay, fair enough. Thank you.
7.2, reopening of the Elmville Arena. 7.3, Barrie Area Physician Recruitment, 220-221 funding request. 7.4, Modernization Fund, Small and Rural Community Fund Update.
I
7.
thought we were pulling that.
Yeah, and then I go to the say, with the exception of at the end, so
Okay.
it's a little confusing. But,
Well, it's been a while.
7.5, 20.42 PW Lawrence Street reconstruction. I'll do it the other way this time. 7.7, radio tower site license point-to-point communications. 7.8, lease agreement with Georgian College Fire Station 1. 7.9, 2020-37-FES replacement pumper tanker. 7.10, B29-31/19 regarding 1820876 Ontario Limited Development Agreement Authorization. 7.11, conditional building permit, 2364 South Orlake Road, with the exception of 7.4, Modernization Fund, Small and Rural Communities Fund Update, and 7.6, Integrity Commissioner results of request for proposal. We there? Everybody okay? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right. We'll start with 7.4, Modernization Funds. Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you, I'm just wondering if it would be possible to separate the two items in the resolution, as the weather system is something that I'm curious if we can look into a little bit further with the county and what operation system the county has. I'm just looking into some larger construction companies that rely on free apps, or Ontario Hydro, who does have a weather system, but the majority of their trucks are dispatched using, again, the weather network. So I'm just curious as to why, what the opportunity might be if the county already has a system in place for us to operate with them using theirs, or as to what the big gap is that we're looking to fill here with these two, I guess, weather vanes.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Ainsworth has a comment.
Thank you. Before the motion can be divided, it needs to be moved and seconded.
Okay, second. We do mover and seconder for this particular motion. I assume it's Deputy Mayor Coughlin and Councillor Moore. So, CAO Schmidt, do I direct this to Director Corbeil or? Sorry, Mr. Hall? Sorry. You have a comment?
Thank you.
Yes, Clerk Ainsworth.
Prior to, could I ask that the motion to divide the question be voted on? And we would need a seconder for that if it
Okay.
is moved by Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
All right, so the motion, seconder, Councillor Cabral on that. Do we realize what we're doing here? Do you want to review, Clerk Ainsworth, please?
The motion would be as follows, that the motion now before council be divided as follows. Division between the two additional options listed in paragraph 3 of the motion.
Okay, all those in favor of doing that? That is carried. Okay, Mr. Ha, are you on the line?
Yes, Mayor Allen, I'm here.
Did you catch the nature of the comment of Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Yes, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to at least entertain the thought of seeing what the county has to offer, and what other options are out there, and then maybe bring this back if required.
Okay, so Clerk Ainsworth is just drafting, and we will, Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just a question with respect to this here, RWIS. I just know that in the past there was information available through, I think it was Palmerax, for an RWIS station. I believe the Ministry of Transportation provides it or has it in place on Highway 90 in Edenville. And I'm just curious to know whether or not that information is still obtainable, or is there some reason why that information is not obtainable and we're looking at purchasing our own? I'm just curious. I know that that's only in one specific location, but the ministry uses it, and they have other ones in place as well that we used to be able to access. I'm just curious if the access has been removed or we're just not allowed to use it anymore.
Mr. Haw?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Cabell. Yeah, we are still able to access the one at Edenvale or closer to Horseshoe Valley Road to get data. What we were looking at doing was there's nothing really to the north of us, so up east and west of Elmville at the top end, where we tend to get different weather patterns. So we were looking at adding something up there that would allow us to monitor when we didn't have a patroller on, and to record data for existing conditions.
Quick follow-up, Mayor Allen.
Please.
Mr. Haw, do you have locations in mind for the location for these weather stations?
Not specific locations. Once we, if it was something that was going to go forward, we would then, have to research down as to where we could tap into power, or whether we went solar, and exact locations. But we have, ballpark ideas.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Clerk Ainsworth, please, with the motion.
Thank you. As the motion has been divided, there will be two motions that council will be voting on. The first one has been moved and seconded and states that the report from the Director of Finance, Treasurer regarding modernization funds, Small and Rural Communities Fund, update dated August 5th, 2020 be received, and that council hereby approves the following to be funded from the modernization funds, Small and Rural Communities Fund, 2 road weather information system RWIS stations, 29,760 plus HST and additional funds. And that would be the first motion, Mayor Allen, that council would vote on.
Okay. All those in favor?
That wasn't the
Hello, we there? All those in favor?
No?
I think we need some clarification.
Yeah, we need clarification. I think the motion was to have that given back to staff in order for them to look at these other options and report back, Mayor Allen. I'm sorry. That's what I took it as.
Clerk Ainsworth?
Okay, thank you. The motion that was passed by council was to divide the question. So this one is in regards to the weather station, and then the next one would be in regards to the audible indicators. So if council would like this motion to be referred to staff, then that could be proposed at this time.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Yes, thank you. The intent was to have this referred to staff, and specifically to investigate into what the county options are.
Councillor Cabral?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Allen. Actually, I didn't mind splitting it, but it does present a bit of a problem for me. The second one is replace the audible indicators on the signal lights in Elmvale. I don't know which lights they're referring to, but I was filling up with gas twice yesterday, and the audible signals at the main lights in Elmvale at Yonge and Queen, I could hear it quite well. So I needed clarification as to which ones they are replacing, because if that's the ones that need replacing, I think staff needs to go up and have another look and listen for themselves, because my hearing's pretty good, and I could hear them twice last night.
Mr. Haw, do you have any thoughts on that?
Issue.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Cabral. It is my understanding that it is the lights at Yonge and Queen, and that they're working intermittently. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but they need to be replaced in order to be working all the time.
Thank you. I just got the sense from the report that you'd been advised that they weren't working at all. So I just wanted to make sure that either they're intermittent or they're working. But thank you for your answer.
Okay, we'll go back to Clerk Ainsworth then, please.
Thank you. And again, this is referring to the weather information system. That the motion now before council be referred to staff to investigate further options, including discussions with the County of Simcoe.
Okay. All those in favor? That is carried. Next part of the motion.
Now, this motion deals with the audible indicators, and there could be an amendment to this, should it be requested. That council hereby approves the following to be funded from the Modernization Funds, Small and Rural Communities Fund, replace audible indicators on signal lights in Elmvale, $7,025.52 plus HST.
And we have a mover and seconder for that.
No, Mayor Allen, we would need a mover and
We need a
seconder.
mover and seconder for that, please. Deputy Mayor Coughlin and Councillor Cabral. And on the basis, Mr. Haw, that can we make sure that they are in fact faulty and are deserving of replacement, please?
Yes, Mayor Allen, we will, I will reach out to TM3 and confirm that, but if that was the recommendation that I understood.
Okay. All those in favor?
Mayor Allen?
Yep. Comment?
Yes, thank you. I'm also curious, is there an opportunity to look into whether there's any accessibility funding grants or programs out there where maybe there's allocation that could come from a different source? I'm not sure what is out there, but often I hear of accessibility grants. So if that could be done at the same time that we're looking into the viability of whether it's one speaker, how many, what work needs to be done.
Clerk Ainsworth, please.
Thank you. As this motion states that it be funded from the modernization funds, an amendment would need to be proposed to seek alternate funding for the project.
Do we know the potential source of such funding?
I am not aware. Maybe Director Corbeil might have further information.
Director Corbeil?
Hi there. No, I'm not familiar with accessibility. Is perhaps Deputy Clerk Helmke may know,
She's still on.
or operations.
No, Deputy Clerk has left, so Clerk Ainsworth?
We are unaware of any specific funding and would have to research it.
Councillor Cabral?
Yes, Mayor Allen, is it possible to make a motion to defer this so that this information can be garnered and maybe staff can actually go and do a few inspections of that particular sounding audible device at that location? Maybe for the next meeting?
Yep, I think that's quite possible. So who are the movers and seconders on this?
Deputy Mayor Coughlin and Councillor Cabral.
Are you, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, are you okay with that?
Yes, thank you. And I thought that was the intention of the deferral. But in that, could we also include that funding sources be looked into? And the only reason for that is, as from what I understood, when the modernization fund came forward, this to me, if something breaks and we need to fix it, that's operational. That just happens. In my opinion, this modernization fund is to provide opportunities for our municipality to be progressive and to become more modernized. So fixing something that's broken to me doesn't necessarily seem like the best avenue to pay for this.
Okay. Can you read the amended motion, please?
May I ask for clarification that the intent is to seek additional funding sources as well as research additional options for the signalization? Is that how council would like to receive further information?
And confirm, in fact, that it is malfunctioning. And needs replacement.
That the motion now before council be deferred to research additional funding sources, for staff to research additional options for the signalization, and to confirm the need for replacement.
Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Moving to 7.6, I now turn the chair over to Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And first I'll be asking for a mover and seconder to get 7.6 on the floor for discussion. Councillor Moore and Councillor Chapman. And Clerk Chaperon, would you like the opportunity to speak to this before we move to questions from council?
Yes, thank you. Through you to council. This report stems from a notice of motion back in February where council requested that an RFP be submitted or released for the services of an integrity commissioner. In May of this past year, council approved the scope of the RFP, and the RFP was released to seek proposals shortly thereafter. The RFP closed on July 9th, and 2 submissions were received. Council, before you, you have a recommendation for the entering into an agreement with Robert Swayze, barrister and solicitor, for the services of an integrity commissioner, as well with the understanding from the previous meeting from council to have the current integrity commissioner continue with any open or existing files. And I am proposing that the changeover be effective September 15th in an effort to ensure that all agreements and necessary documents are executed with proper timelines.
Thank you, Clerk Chaperon. Is there any questions from members of council at this time? Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm just curious, what is it that the Mr. Swayze is going to provide us that is different from Principal's Integrity?
Thank you, Councillor Moore, and that's directed to Clerk Zainwer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, through you, to Councillor Moore. The services of an integrity commissioner are mandated under the Municipal Act and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. So essentially, all integrity commissioners should be providing the same service to all Ontario municipalities. Every integrity commissioner would have different ways of providing that service, but it also has to fall in line with the code of conduct that is adopted by council. So to tell you exact differences between the current integrity commissioner or a new integrity commissioner would be quite difficult as the requirements are all legislated.
Thank you. Follow-up, Councillor Moore?
Thank you. Through you then, please, to the clerk. Is there a financial gain then to use this this lawyer instead? Is this less expensive than Principal's Integrity?
Thank you, Councillor Moore, and Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you. The hourly rate for the selected proponent is higher than the current agreement with the current integrity commissioner.
Thank you. Councillor Hanna?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to make it clear I'm totally supportive of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hanna. Councillor Ritchie?
Yes, this is to the Deputy Mayor Coughlin. Deputy Mayor Coughlin, you were the one that brought this forward and for a change. What's the reason for the change?
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie, and I guess through myself. At the time, when asking for it, only having Principal's Integrity and only really having one dealing with them, I found that our council chamber, in my opinion, wasn't unbiased. I felt that there was, I wasn't comfortable with the situation. I wasn't, but I had nothing to compare it to. So the intent of this was to have staff look into what other options were available to us. I was surprised that Principal's Integrity did not participate in the RFQ to become that. So Unfortunately, there will be a cost increase, which is definitely not something I was looking to have brought upon us, because I do feel that these costs are, they just add up, and they're out of our control. Like I said, if my grandma is bored on a Saturday and wants to call her integrity commissioner because she read something in the paper, that's to the expense of the municipality. But at the same time, this avenue needs to be available for our residents to be able to hold us accountable. So I feel like we're caught here, and this is new. This is new for everyone across Ontario. So I think that myself, it's not just about the money. I wasn't satisfied with what our service partner was delivering to us, and I think that it's time that we move forward with the change. I just muted myself and I didn't need to. Is there a follow-up, Councillor Ritchie?
Yes, I just, like, from following this through, I'm from the understanding is it's about money. And when I asked Clerk Ainsworth about our President Integrity Commissioner, their hourly rate is $230 an hour. The new one is $280 an hour. Plus there's a $1,000 retainer, but the $1,000 retainer is paid by the county because I guess they pick it up. So my question is to you or to the clerk, who pays this $1,000 retainer if we go to the new person? Is the county going to pick that up, or is this more money that we have to pay?
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie, and I will move forward to Clerk Ainsworth. So I was speaking with the county just to get a better understanding of how the county acquired Principals Integrity and why they were retainer. So moving forward with the new Integrity Commissioner, we as a municipality would be paying that retainer.
So can I just follow up?
I'm just going to clarify. Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. I'm just going to clarify that my answer is correct with Clerk Ainsworth before I provide this information. Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you. Through to council, that is correct. The retainer with Principals Integrity, that was a joint venture with the County of Simcoe, and they invited lower tier municipalities to participate. While the township did participate later on, it wasn't, we weren't one of the original lower tier municipalities that went in on the joint RFP, but we were allowed to piggyback onto that once council did decide to appoint the Integrity Commissioner. So that is correct. With Principals Integrity, the County of Simcoe pays the $1,000 retainer. Moving forward with any other proponent or Integrity Commissioner, the township will have to pay the retainer.
Thank you, Clerk Ainsworth. And after Councillor Ritchie, we'll go to Councillor Cabral and then Councillor Chapman. Councillor Ritchie?
Anyways, thank you for clarifying that, Clerk Ainsworth. I just find that, you know, it's about money. Like I've called them in the past, very polite, very professional, get to the point, get off the phone, it's done. And so just to clarify that, we're going to spend more money per hour, at $280, and now we got to pay $1,000 retainer. I can't support this. I just think this is a goose hunt is what it is. And I'd be willing to take a look at this next March when their contract comes up and leave it at that. Like, how many times has anybody used these people since last year or whatever? Like, anyways, they're there, pick up the phone call, but at the end of the day, they're cheaper than the new people. I can't support paying more money to get the same service. I want to be very clear about that.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. And just for clarification, Principals Integrity is not an option, as is every single tender that we've had in your 10-year experience. If they chose not to tender, they are no longer a viable option. We do not have the opportunity to stay with Principals Integrity at this time. And also, when it comes to service partners, it's more than just money. And if you were satisfied with the records that were provided, and we were provided from staff a list of how many phone calls went in, and like you said, yes, we can call them and we can speak to them, but they do bill us for that. That's not part of the retainer, so there is a billable, and there was $1,000 phone calls in there. So to me, it's also about the value that we receive for the time that we are on the phone with them. And to myself, I was not satisfied with the service partner. We went to an RFQ, which was supported by yourself and council, and we are here now to make this decision. So by not supporting this motion, it does not provide you with an opportunity to stay with principal's integrity. So simply tonight, your option for whether you vote yes or no is principal's integrity or the second option, or sorry, the option before us or the next option coming forward. And sorry, Councillor Moore, I'll add you to the bottom of the list. It's Councillor Cabral here next. And Councillor Cabral, thank you. Yeah.
Just a couple of things. I know it boils down to a few dollars, but I think an hourly wait, and I hate to say it, or an hourly rate is speculative at best. Depending on an investigation, it's like anything else. You know, you've got lawyers that are very thorough, very accurate, very quick, and can get it done a little quicker. They charge a little more, and then you got other lawyers that may take a bit longer. They might charge less, but quite possibly end up paying the same, or you could even be paying more. And with respect to the $1,000 from the county, I didn't know if that was ongoing or whether that was just for the initial phase. But the other thing I guess I would think on that one is it's still money that's coming out of our own residents' pockets, whether it's coming from the county or us. I kind of view it as it's a tax dollar that's been spent, and the county's simply using tax dollars that they've already got from our taxpayers, kind of making it seem like they're doing it on our behalf. I guess at the end of the day, we would have to pay an extra $1,000, but just those two comments, I don't know whether or not the additional costs really would be reflected as an additional cost at the end of the day, because everybody bills a little bit different. That's my comments.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Cabral. Before I move to Councillor Chapman, is it possible to have CEO Schmidt speak to the retainer with the county, and then if there's any other comments before I move to Councillor Chapman and then Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, and through to you to members of council. So just wanted to provide a little bit more information, I guess, as to how maybe staff perceived the conversation around this particular matter. So it was my understanding that, you know, back late last year into earlier this year, we had some discussion with the current integrity commissioner, and through those discussions, there was some, I guess, comments back and forth, and I believe the perception is that the relationship between the two parties was starting to go south, if you want to call it that. And so I believe at the time it wasn't necessarily about the cost per se, although that was a factor. It was also the value of service that was being provided for that cost. And so, you know, now we've walked through the path. We came back to council with a scope for the RFP, which council agreed to. And, you know, maybe there was some kind of understanding that we could go back to principal's integrity, but the only way that we can go back through principal's integrity is if they had to submitted through this RFP. We've gone through a competitive bid process. We are now obligated through contractual procurement law to essentially award to one of these two individuals. And if we don't, then we are susceptible to a lawsuit. And so I will put that on the table is that you do not have the opportunity to go back to principal's integrity. The only way to be able to do that is essentially if the scope of the RFP has changed, which I don't believe it is. We've talked about what the scope of an IC service provides, and it's pretty standard. And the only other thing would be budgetary. And unless this is significantly over budget, which I don't believe it is, we really don't have a leg to stand on to not award to one of these two individuals that are proponents that have submitted. So we do have a duty to award. With that said, if council is in agreement with the motion, there's nothing to suggest that we couldn't go back to Mr. Swayze and say, listen, we need to negotiate a little bit more on your hourly rate, and see whether or not he's willing to do so. We have that opportunity to do so. However, we would have to award to him before doing so.
Thank you, CEO Schmidt. And Councillor Chapman, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Collin. Question, since their agreement is till March of 2021, is it a penalty that we break that now? Is it a contract or just an agreement? And second, has any other municipality used Robert Swayze?
Thank you, Councillor Chapman, and on to Clerk Ainsworth, please.
Thank you. There In the current agreement with the current integrity commissioner, there is a 30-day cancellation clause. There is no penalty, just the requirement of a 30-day cancellation, which is written into the motion to take that into consideration. And Mr. Swayze is the integrity commissioner for, I believe, close to, let me just get the exact number. I know I have it in here. 25 municipalities.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Sainsworth, and finally, Councillor Moore.
Thank you. And through you, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, to Clerk Ainsworth, I believe. So how are we guaranteed as a council that Principals Integrity, my apologies, will continue their current investigations? And how does the payment to them for those investigations happen if our contract is expired in 30 days?
Perfect, and thank you, Councillor Moore. Through to Clerk Ainsworth, please.
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Moore. I have spoken with the two proponents within Principals Integrity and advised them of what is happening. They have agreed to continue on with any open files. And what would happen is at the September 2nd meeting of council, you would see a bylaw with an agreement for Mr. Swayze come forward, as well as a new agreement with Principals Integrity that would reflect the continuation of only open files. And that would continue with the current rate that is in the agreement at this time. So the agreement as it exists would be canceled and a new agreement would be entered into with them to reflect the ongoing and open investigations until their completion.
Thank you. Follow-up, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Coughlin. And if there was a sense of maybe I wasn't comfortable with Principals Integrity continuing with those investigations, is there an opportunity to have our new Integrity Commissioner also look at that file or and have them do some possible dual investigation? I'm just not sure that I'm 100% comfortable now, given our relationship sort of dissolving, that they're going to be treating the file fairly.
Thank you, and great question, Councillor Moore. I could put that through to Clerk Sainsworth, but I would assume that if there is a second complaint, then that would be dealt with the new commissioner. But at this point, I don't know if they can transfer files. We can request that the transfer of files, but I don't know that that can be a direction of council as we are to remain at arm's length. So, Clerk Ainsworth, if you could comment, please.
Thank you. The general practice is that the new Integrity Commissioner would take on all existing and ongoing files, that the current Integrity Commissioner would pass off those files prior to the transfer of responsibility and provide any dockets, background information, investigation information up to that point. So that's what generally happens. At the May 6th meeting of council, some members of council expressed concern with current or ongoing investigations being, I'm not sure if the word left behind or not continued. There was a concern for that, and it was asked of staff to ensure that the current Integrity Commissioner continue with all open and ongoing files. So that is how staff has written the motion. If that is not the wish of council, then we can make, somebody could propose an amendment to reflect that in the motion. There would be a few things that would have to change. A few paragraphs could be removed, and just the fact of appointing the new Integrity Commissioner as of September 15th would be sufficient in that case. So that is if council would like to see that option, there would have to be an amendment to the existing motion.
Again, sorry, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Coughlin. I would like to get a sense from the other councillors just how we are feeling about keeping our investigation files that we have ongoing right now with the current principles integrity, or are you comfortable with having the new integrity commissioner take those on? I'd just like to get a sense for, how people, where comfort levels are.
Thank you. Councillor Moore, if I can move back to that secondary question after Councillor Chapman's had an opportunity to speak to the nature of this, and then we can get a sense of if we'd like to provide an amendment to the motion moving forward, if you're comfortable with that.
Fine, thank you.
Councillor Chapman?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Coughlin. Just a question again, with our agreement ending March. So if investigation is not completed by time March 31st came, would they still, integrity commissioner still keep that, or principal integrity, or would it go to Robert Swayze? I'm confused there.
Thank you. So I believe what Clerk Ainsworth is suggesting is that a previous resolution of our council, the common practice would be that one firm would just transfer everything to the next firm, but it was at the direction of our council at the time to make sure, to ensure that the open case is dealt with by principals integrity. But if it is now no longer the wish of this council to have principals integrity deal with that, and we would rather move everything over to Swayze, then we would simply remove that one line of the resolution, and it would just be that Swayze becomes our councillor, or our integrity commissioner at that time. So follow on, Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, sorry, I'm still a little confused. So we pay the retainer is the retainer like for the year, right? Based on 12 months? So if they're done in March 31st, I can't see them taking on our existing investigation past that if we're not paying them an additional $1,000.
Okay, thank you.
Where would draw the line?
Sure. And thank you, Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you. Any new agreement with Principals Integrity to deal with ongoing cases or open cases would deal with an expiry. The fact of the retainer, if this were to go into the new year, or any investigations were to go into the new year, would have to be dealt with when speaking to them to negotiate a new contract for these specific circumstances. So that would be something that would have to be discussed with Principals Integrity should council want them to continue on any existing files.
Okay, thank you. And just on that, I would like to follow up with Councillor Moore's original question before moving to any other questions. And Councillor Moore was, as members of this council had previously supported the initiative to have Principals Integrity remain on the suspended case within our municipality. And I guess a good question would be, is that the only open investigation at this time? Before we make a decision on that, is to your knowledge, Clerk Ainsworth, is it simply the one suspended case?
Thank you, through you to council. As of last month, with the past billing, that is the only open case. As we haven't received any invoices for July, I am unaware if anything would have been opened from July 1st till now.
Okay, and thank you. And so to your point, Councillor Moore, I know myself, I was supportive of it remaining with Principals Integrity because I felt that was the direction of other members of council. I am fully supportive of taking on Swayze and moving forward with a new integrity commissioner. But I'd like to just open the floor up to the members of council to see. Actually, before I do that, Clerk Ainsworth, is that straw voting? Can I ask that, or do we have to simply put forward an amendment? Can we speak to it?
Thank you. There should be an amendment placed before council prior to discussion. I am drafting the amendment as we speak, and it would read. It would read that the. It would read that the. Sorry, yeah. May I continue?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. That the motion now before council be amended as follows: delete paragraph 4 and 6.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Cabral, are you seconding Councillor Moore's, or are you wanting to?
No, actually, I don't think there was enough conversation about this. Certain councillors had their hands up, and now we're taking stuff out and making a motion on this.
Right, and yeah, sorry, Councillor Cabral, and I apologize for interrupting you. The reason that I asked for it to be an emotion is I do believe that in order for our council to be discussing something that is redirecting the motion at hand, we have to have a motion on the table or an amendment on the table to do so. So So it was not my intention to stifle any conversation. It was simply to put the process in order before the conversation began.
I understand that, but we don't know what the counselors were going to say, whether they were going to speak to that or not, because you had them in queue. So that's why I'm just mentioning that by doing this, we can't even, once this goes through, if anybody did have anything to say, we won't be able to speak to it again. We'll have to vote on it. So that's why I'm mentioning it now. I think it might have been premature.
Okay, thank you for your comment, Councillor Cabral. My intention here is, a while back, Councillor Moore did have a comment about a portion remaining with principles integrity through this motion. And I believe, and I will ask Councillor Moore here, that her intention was to have council discuss, rather than moving everything else over to Swayze and having a portion remain with principles integrity. Councillor Moore would like our council to consider moving everything over to. So by putting having that amendment put on the floor, then we can have the discussion at length as much as you want to talk about it. But until we do have that amendment on the floor, council should not be speaking to it. So I'm looking for Councillor Moore.
Once you put the motion on the floor and we vote on it,
no.
those two sections are gone.
No, so my apologies, Councillor Cabral. It's not the main motion that's on there, it's the amendment to the motion. And if council so chooses not to support what I believe Councillor Moore's amendment is, those two sections would remain. So Councillor Moore, do I have that correct, that you would like to have a discussion about moving everything, including the suspended investigation, to Swayze?
Yes,
And
yes,
can I
it
have a
is.
seconder?
And I have some comments about it too.
Perfect, thank you. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Cabral. I'll move to Councillor Moore and then Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I'm wanting to consider moving the files to our new integrity commissioner. But my question to the clerk is, if we do that, people who have made submissions regarding the one file that is open, does that all go to the new integrity commissioner, or would new submissions have to be made? What exactly would be included in that transfer of information?
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Clerk Sainsworth?
Thank you, through you to Councillor Moore. The entire file with all information would be transferred to the new integrity commissioner, and it would be up to them on how to proceed with the file. Because the integrity commissioner has the authority to decide whether or not to continue with a file, whether it's in conjunction with the code of conduct, whether it is against the code of conduct. So that new integrity commissioner could decide to continue with the investigation, halt the investigation, end the investigation, or even restart the investigation. It would be up to their discretion. But all information would be transferred to the new integrity commissioner.
Thank you. And follow up, Councillor Moore, before Cabral.
Thank you. For follow-up then, I would then, I know previously I had said that I would want to stay with principles integrity with that file, but I'm now going to change my decision and want the entire file moved to Mr. Swayze. I'm concerned about eroding relationships with our previous integrity commissioner, so I think this is the way I'll move, and I'll stop talking about it now.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, and I apologize for seeming that maybe I wasn't in the loop there. I could live with it, to be quite frank. I think it might cost a few dollars, but I think what we're going to miss by moving the file, because our original intention was to make sure that, you know, whatever files were already open were maintained, and I think Clerk Ainsworth has mitigated that by already speaking with Principles Integrity in order to enter into another agreement at the same costs to continue all the open files until they are completed. So I don't think there's a definitive end period. It's when it's done. But I think we're going to lose possibly the intimacy, the discussions, The new lawyer is going to get documents that he is going to read. He's not going to be getting the feelings, the intonation of the way these people were speaking when Principals Integrity was interviewing them. So I'm just afraid we might lose that aspect of it by moving the file over. However, to be quite frank, I'm fairly ambivalent on it. I just wanted to say that that aspect of it, you're going to take just documents now, whereas Principals Integrity actually interacted with all the witnesses, took all their statements. So I just think we might lose, I don't know what you want to call it, the nuances of that particular thing that they did. But I mean, obviously the file is the file. And if the new fella takes it over, I'm just afraid we might lose some of that aspect of it. That's all. So that's just the only comment I had. I don't know if that changes anybody's mind, but I'm kind of stuck on the fence myself now, to be quite frank.
Thank you, Councillor Cabral. Councillor Chapman, did I have you in queue? Perfect. Councillor Hanna?
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Cabral. Integrity, Principles of Integrity, they interviewed a large number of witnesses. They have the witness statements. If we pass their file on to the new Integrity Commissioner, we as council would not be able to ask questions and get the same answers we would get from those people who did the interviews and got the statements. All the new Integrity Commissioner could do was just pass on the reports that they had received. I think it's important for us to get our questions answered from the source. When Integrity Commissioner appeared the last time before council, when they were presenting a report related to me, they stated, in my recollection, that the report was done, but they would not be tabling it until after the court procedure was over. And I believe that if that was in fact the case, which I'm certain it was, everything is done now. It's just a case of waiting till they come before us as council, where we can get the report and then ask questions. And as I say, you can't ask questions from the person who did not do the interviews of the witnesses and get the same type of answer. So I think it would be a mistake to pass the report on to a new Integrity Commissioner. You wouldn't get the same quality of responses.
Thank you, Councillor Hanna. I find that interesting, those points. Whereas I was to understand that every Integrity Commissioner is simply to provide a report, and that councils to remain at arm's length from the decision-making as to whether or not to receive it. But Councillor Ritchie?
Deputy Mayor Coughlin, my apologies, may I interrupt? I believe we're having technical difficulties. So
Okay.
if we could pause for a few moments while I try to deal with it.
Wonderful. Would it be entertaining to council to take a quick bio break if anybody needed to grab a coffee or take a quick break? We can reconvene in a couple minutes, Clerk Ainsworth. Does that work?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys hear me?
Yep.
I agree with you, George and Jack. Like
My
I'm scared
apologies,
that-
council. We are on a recess and unfortunately cannot continue the discussion until we resume the meeting.
Thank you, Clerk Ainsworth.
So you need to have.
I was running back.
We need to have a mute button, a master mute button. Did you get the big red emergency mute button put in yet?
No, unfortunately not.
Not yet, okay.
And we are still streaming.
Yep. Did everybody get enough rain over the weekend?
Excuse me
Lots
for
of
interrupting, but do I have time to make a coffee? How long are we gonna be?
Couple minutes?
I'll be back.
This doesn't count as product placement, does it?
Members of council, are you able to see the council chamber on your stream, on your Zoom?
No, we
No.
haven't been able to see the council chambers probably for the better part of a half an hour or more.
Okay. Thank you. That is the technical issue we are trying to deal with.
Okay.
I was wondering.
I thought it was at my end only. Unmute.
Clerk Sainsworth,
Yes.
is it possible as the member of council who is in the chamber is in, oh, and he's back.
Oh,
Never mind.
now you're up.
There you go. I was gonna say, could we keep going anyway, but that's fine. And I guess Councillor Ritchie. Mhm. Clerk Ainsworth, as we can see, the council chamber and Councillor Ritchie has returned. Are we able to resume?
Yes, please.
Thank you. All right, so I believe we left off, and that was comments on the amended, the motion amendment put forward by Councillor Moore to have all the files moved over to our new integrity commissioner. If that is still the intention of Councillor Moore, we can call for a vote on that, or if Councillor Moore would like to go back to her original decision, from there we could simply withdraw the amendment. Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Coughlin. I'd like to finish out Councillor Ritchie's comments, if I may.
Oh, yes.
First, and then if I could follow up afterward.
Yes, sorry, I thought Councillor Ritchie had finished. Councillor Ritchie, is there something else you'd like to add?
Well, I just want to add that I agree with what Councillor Cabral and Councillor Hanna is saying. Like, I will not support handing all the files over to the new lawyer, to the new integrity commissioner, because they didn't do the interviews. They didn't write the report. He can't speak to that if it ever goes wherever these places, wherever it goes. The new guy can't speak to it. And the principles of integrity are the ones that did it, and they're the ones that need to be kept. If and when the time comes, we need to go back and get them. They need to come forward and present their case, because they did all the homework. They did all the legwork, and they need to speak to that. And we're going to lose that if we hand all those files over. So, you want to go to the new guy, fine, but the principles of integrity, keep the existing files, open files, whatever they've done, keep it intact, so that if we need to go back and deal with it, they need to come forward and speak to it. And only they can speak to it. The new guy can't speak to that because he didn't do the interviews.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Councillor Moore, were you hoping to speak last, or would you like Councillor?
If I could go last, that would be perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Hanna?
Thank you. And the only thing I'd like to add is it's also unfair to the person that they've investigated not to be able to address their report and ask them questions as well. So I think in fairness to everybody, including the person that they've investigated, the report should stay with principles of integrity.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody, for your honest opinions. If I could withdraw my amendment now, I will go ahead and we could proceed with the vote on the original motion. That would be fine.
Thank you. Clerk Ainsworth? Clerk Ainsworth, we were able to withdraw that motion, or amendment, sorry.
Thank you, yes. The motion to amend to remove paragraph 4 and 6 has been withdrawn, and the motion now before you is as you see it on the agenda.
Perfect, thank you. Clerk Ainsworth, as we call the vote, is there anything yourself or CA Schmidt would like to add before we do so? Sorry, I just can't see your faces or hands from my office.
Thank you. No, there is no further information to add.
Thank you. So at the time, Councillor Ritchie?
What is it we're voting on? Can the clerk read that out?
Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you. So the motion is as stated on the agenda, and I will read it in its entirety. It is moved by Councillor Moore and seconded by Councillor Chapman that the report from the clerk regarding Integrity Commissioner results of a request for proposals dated August 5th, 2020 be received, and that council hereby directs staff to enter into contract negotiations with Robert J. Swayze, barrister and solicitor, for the services of Integrity Commissioner effective September 15th, 2020, and that the necessary bylaw to authorize the agreement with Robert J. Swayze, barrister and solicitor, be presented to council for consideration at the September 2nd, 2020 meeting of council, and that council hereby directs staff to enter into negotiations with Principals Integrity to retain all current and ongoing files, investigations, until the closing of such files, with new files to be undertaken by the new proponent effective September 15th, 2020, and that staff be directed to provide notice of termination of the professional services agreement with Principals Integrity in accordance with Section 6.2 of the agreement, and that the necessary bylaw to authorize the amended agreement with Principals Integrity be presented for consideration at the September 2nd, 2020 meeting of council.
Thank you, Clerk Ainsworth. All those in favor? That motion is carried. And thank you. And as we move on to information items reports, I will hand the chair back over to Mayor Allen. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Coughlin. So we are at 8.1, information reports. Can I have a mover and seconder to get these on the floor, please? Councillor Cabral, Deputy Mayor Coughlin. There are 4 of them. Anybody like to speak to or pull any of those? Okay, I've got a mover and seconder, and that the report items listed herein be received as information. Number 1, 2021 Budget Direction Report. 2, Building Permit Activity Summary Report, May 2020. 3, 2020-39-RFQ, replace R1 3/4 ton heavy duty truck. Number 4, Snowmobile Bridge Replacement, Floss Road 3 West, unassumed road allowance. All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you. Verbal reports. Do we have Director Spagnol, official plan update and economic development update?
Yes, Mayor Allen, thank you. As far as the official plan review process goes, the consultant WSP is moving through and working on the background studies related to the Bayfield Street corridor study. They are also working on an employment serving population study, and they are also working on an intensification study. Another related matter that council will be seeing coming forward will be the initial meeting to provide council with the opportunity to discuss the cannabis study that WSP is also working on, and that is scheduled to take place on August 24th at 5 p.m. So staff is working towards booking those meetings. I do not have anything more to report on economic development, but that's the update regarding the official plan review process.
Thank you, Director Spagnol. Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I was just wondering if it might be possible to provide some insight into the industrial area up by Atlas Brick on the 4th there at County Road 93. I believe it's the new company that's going in there.
Western Mechanical.
That's who it is. Is it Western Mechanical?
Yes, it is.
Yes, okay, I apologize, yes.
Okay, Director Spagno, can you give us an update on that, please?
Yes, Mayor Allen, through you to Councillor Cabral. The property owner has been working through and preparing the site, has been dealing with grading, tree removal. They have been in contact, and they have been in contact with the Ministry of Transportation. Staff have sat down with the property owners and went through the pre-consultation process to deal with land use approvals required to bring the necessary industrial zone in on the property. And we anticipate, based on those conversations, that applications will be in the month of August.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, any county update?
Sorry, Councillor.
Sorry,
Moore.
Councillor Moore, you had a question.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Allen. I wonder if we would want to consider putting the Midhurst secondary plan developments on verbal reports as a permanent standing item.
Good point.
CAO Schmidt, do you see that as being a separate item or part of municipal updates, or?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't, if council wishes to have those updates added to the agenda, I have no concerns with doing so. I guess we could talk to the Clerk Ainsworth and figure out the exact location, but yeah, obviously within this section, but how we name it and such, we can manage that.
Okay, we will add a section pertaining to that. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin, county update?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to the rest of council and our residents. Our past meeting, county council, there was a lot of conversation and still confidential conversation regarding the waste management. Aside from that, we had an in-depth and lengthy conversation about face coverings in Simcoe Muskoka, which did call for county council to vote 3 times on the one issue. We did have a recorded vote at the end of it, and it was decided by county council that there would not be a bylaw put in place to make it enforceable. And I guess lastly, our budget, the high-level budget, county put forward direction to have a 0% levy increase for 2021. That would be the update.
Thank you. Municipal updates. Does anyone have any municipal updates? Councillor Ritchie?
Mayor Allen, I don't know whether you can help me out or not, or CAO Schmidt, but I was wondering if one of you could reach out, maybe CA or Scott Haw, regarding the bridge there that we've got to cross every day to get in and out of Elmvale at the Y River. They call it Browns Creek. I don't know why. It's the Y River. But anyways, a lot of congestion. And what is just an update on where they are, how they're making out. It's just everybody talks about it. To get some information about that would go a long ways in telling all our taxpayers what's going on.
Okay,
Please.
thank you. Mr. Haw, you still on the line, or Director Coleman?
Yeah, Mayor Allen, I'm still here. Yeah, we can reach out to the county. It's their project on the bridge, but we can reach out and see if we can get an update.
We'll get an update, and Mr. Haw will send an email to council on the update.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Thank you. If staff's willing to do so, I've actually been in contact with Christian and Doug quite frequently regarding the project, and also with Elmville Home Hardware, is the county's going to be working with them to reduce some speed and put some different line paintings in as they do the rehabilitation of that bridge. But if it's just simply dates for completion that Councillor Ritchie's looking to, I can forward that to him after the meeting.
Thank you. But Councillor Hobb, please, from Springwater to the county, please try to find out what you can as an update in addition to what Deputy Mayor Coughlin is aware of, okay? Thank you. Any other municipal updates? Okay, item 10, any notices of motion? Okay, moving on to 11, items for future consideration. Any items for future consideration? Okay, moving on to 12, bylaws. Can I have a mover and a seconder to approve the bylaws, please? Councillor Ma and Councillor Moore, that the bylaws listed herein be signed and sealed by the Mayor and Clerk. 2020-55 lease agreement, Fire Station 1, 1254 Sunnydale Road, Georgian College. 20-56 Tower Site License Agreement, point-to-point. Communications, 2057, establish a public highway, Green Meadow Subdivision, Block 106, Plan 51M-1186. 2020-058, establish public highway, Green Meadow Subdivision, Block 52, Plan 51M-546. All those in favor? That is carried. Can I get a mover and seconder to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council? Councillor Cabral, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, that bylaw 220-059 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on August 5, listed 220, listed herein, be signed and sealed by the Mayor and Clerk. All those in favor? That is carried. And a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Moore and Councillor Ritchie, that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 8:08 p.m. to meet again in regular meeting on September, we're meeting in August, aren't we?
Mayor Allen, it just notes the next regular meeting.
Regular meeting. September 2nd, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. in the Council Chambers, Admin Center, Minising. All those in favor? Carried.